Welcome to another episode of Crowding the Plate, the best goddamn baseball podcast you will ever come across. As always, we are powered by Branded Sports. Make sure you go over to thebrandedsports.com for all your news, laughs, notes, whatever you need every day of the week. They're at branded_sports on Twitter. I am Kmess coming to you live from the Philly suburbs, and my partner in Titletown is...
What's up, guys? Dubs here. It was a very unexpected Tuesday, I guess, here. So,
right?
It should be a good show. I didn't think we'd be talking close to $500 million today, but here we are, Tuesday afternoon.
All right, so we were wrong about one major piece in free agency, and the other guy that wasn't even in free agency, but was already going to Philadelphia. Well, guess what, Philly fans? He is not going to Philly. Mike Trout is staying on the West Coast. Dubs, give us the unbelievable details on what happened today.
Yeah, like you said, best part of the deal is that he won't be in Philly, and we don't have to hear about it for 2 years. Very ideal. But the details of this extension, the reason why he's not going to the Phillies, there's 430 million reasons. Over 12 years, he will be getting $430 million on his extension with the Angels. It is the biggest contract ever in total value, AAV, everything. There's no opt-out clause. It's
unbelievable.
It's the deal of a lifetime, and it's one that, I can't imagine anyone else ever getting. It's the biggest in American sports history, so I think maybe someone in soccer might have topped it. That's about it.
But, think about the other perks of the deal. He gets to stay in California.
Yep.
He gets to stay on a team where the fans adore him and absolutely love everything that he does, including not winning. So there's no expectations. It's just hit baseballs really far, win MVPs, and make $430 million. And you're living in L.A. But he doesn't even live in L.A., so he's not getting taxed. He lives in Jersey or Philly. So good for him.
Great for him. To put it in perspective, via MLB Network, I was watching it earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
Artie Moreno, the owner of the Angels, bought the team for $184 million in 2003.
Think about that.
And now he's giving Mike Trout $430 million over 12 years. So that's, it is absolutely preposterous. Not only the numbers that other people have gotten to in the league, but just this one alone is, it's staggering, and it was shocking to begin with, just because I don't think anyone expected him to just all of a sudden sign an extension, especially right after Harper talking about, Trout's coming, or I'm going to be talking to Trout, blah, blah, blah,
congratulations,
whatever it may be. It shocked me. I went into the shower, got out 10 minutes later, and Mike Trout was almost $500 million richer. That blew my mind.
The best thing for me is I found out from CEO Joe, Mr. Philly himself, that was already guaranteeing on this show that, Bryce signed, now Harper's coming, or Harper signed, now Trout's coming. Nope.
Yep.
Nope. I love it.
Insane. It's buku money. And my question now is, have we reached the ceiling for money a player will get? Like in when you look at it, you would say immediately kind of no, just because we've just had 3 record-breaking contracts in one off season. But 4, I guess, if you even want to throw in Arenado's.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at some point, Mike Trout is undoubtedly the best player of this generation.
Absolutely.
I think I would say.
No
I don't think you'd hear anyone really argue that point. So if he's the cap, maybe in a decade, 15 years, you see a contract like this again. But I personally think this has to be the ceiling for contracts that we'll see anytime soon again.
You would think it's a strange thing in your mind, because you think, yes, this has to be the ceiling. Like you said, nobody does it like Trout. He's a 12-tool player. He does everything. But then you got a guy like Mookie coming, who just won an MVP. another player who does it all, but does it with a lot more pressure on his back, I feel like, doing it in Boston. And he's going to want a lot of money. And he's young.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see Mookie making this deal. So yes, I feel like we are probably capped with Trout probably for a long time. But at the same time, the little angel on this shoulder saying, no, Mookie's going to make more money when he's up, because that's just what happens in sports.
Yeah, and I think, I would lean. So here's how I feel about Mookie. And I blogged about it today. Go check it out, thebrandedsports.com.
Mookie
But
money.
Mookie is, I think he's undoubtedly the second best player in the league. I don't think you'd even hear a ton of argument on that, which is crazy to think, just in the last 4 years, what he's been able to do.
I'll give you that.
I don't think you'd hear a ton of argument on him being you're never going to hear an argument against him being a top 5 player.
No.
And you're talking about players who, you got to argue Harper and Machado into the top 10, depending on who you're asking.
They're not
so
mine.
Mookie Betts deserves Trout money, not Harper money, not Machado money, which I thought was insane money. But I think Mookie has to be a $400 million man at this point. I think exceeding $430 million is not fair to the team. If that's the going rate for an MVP and Mike Trout for $430 million, and the going rate should be $400 for Mookie. I think
that's fair.
I think if they're willing to pay him more, pay him more. I want Mookie Betts. If it means $500 million, $600 million, keep Mookie Betts on the Red Sox. But I think in reality, this will be the cap that we'll see for the next 15 years. It'll be the original A-Rod deal where we just didn't see something like that again for a while, because it was so absurd.
Do you see the Red Sox giving Mookie $400 million?
I hope so. They better. I don't see the point in not. Until there's not a cap on the league, teams like the Red Sox will be able to pay that. Yeah. We had the highest payroll in the league last year, so I don't see any reason for us not to pay Mookie Betts $400 million. And part that you do forget, it is an absurd amount of money, regardless of how you look at it. But it is over 12 years. It's not like you are going to be able to do stuff with your team, especially if your team like the Red Sox or even the Angels, who bring in a lot of money and are a big name team. Like they have the money to spend, so teams like that are able to kind of have a $40 million a year guy and not have it cripple their team or cripple their roster.
That's my question for you. You kind of brought it back to the Angels. So Trout's going to be there long term. He's the face of the franchise. They are in talks of trying to get a new stadium. Shohei's there. Let's say he we talked about it last week. Is he going to be a pitcher? Is he going to be just a hitter? Is he going to be both? Let's say he goes out there and just hits bombs, and he's just, another bona fide masher out there. Do you see the Angels becoming a new hotspot for free agents in the future now? Because of this, because Trout's there, because Shohei's there.
Hotspot, maybe not. I still think it's always going to be the same. Even if you're going to LA, I think it's still going to be the Dodgers. I think it's still stuff like that it's kind of ingrained in baseball, because it's just those teams have been around for so long. But as far as building a good roster, I think the Angels are more than capable of doing that. I think they should be. Obviously, they haven't proven it throughout Trout's career, but they should be in the playoffs. And I think having the security with Trout, even though it's for so much money, you can now kind of plan. They can plan theoretically their next 5 years out right now on some of their goals and what they're going to try and accomplish. And it's very, very clear. Even if Shohei Ohtani does come back, and he could be unbelievable, they're still going to need more pitching. I think the needs are very evident. And I think now, knowing that you have that cornerstone guy locked up, you don't have to worry about his free agency, anything like that. You can move forward with a set plan. And I think that is the benefit of doing these extensions and deals like that. It's just, if you are a general manager, you can really plot it out to where the Angels can be a contender in the next 5 years, and then have that momentum for going forward.
And I did read something earlier. You take this with a grain of salt. But their farm system went from 2-3 years ago, was ranked 27th in the league, up to 7th now. Now, some people don't care at all about those ratings. prospects are prospects. They're nothing until they get to the bigs. But who knows? I mean, if they get a couple big prospects and they can make a trade, or a couple young guys that can come up, I mean, I like when the Angels are good. I don't, especially, yeah. I mean, again, we've said, there's guys in this league, players that as long as they're not playing against the Yanks or the Sox in the World Series, we want to see them win. A guy like Kershaw, we said that last week. Trout is undoubtedly a guy I am rooting to win multiple World Series. But now that he's there, are we ever gonna see him get one? I
think we'll see him get there at least. I think at some point, it's one of those things where, Griffey didn't make it. Stuff like that, like little things like that, where such great people don't make it, and such great players, some of the best generational players, don't make it. But I also think, part of me, for some reason, has faith in the Angels. I think they're an organization that has history and has a little pride to where they can muster up the ability to put a game plan in place that gets them into some type of contender role.
And who knows, that whole conversation could have been a conversation they've been having with Trout. I'm sure he didn't just sign willy-nilly. I'm sure there's been, he wants to see, what is the plan going forward? Yes, yeah. I want to stay here. Yes, I love the fans. Yes, they love me. But, I don't want to just play baseball and win MVPs and lose games. He's a competitor. He wants to win. So I'm sure the plan is in place, and that he has been, given sort of the keys to helping them put that plan together for $430 million.
Yeah. And I think, and you talk about their farm system too, I think when you look at the model of what the MLB has really become, is it's built through the farm and have your own guys and really build a team that way. That's what every successful team right now has done. That's, I think, going back, probably you can go and see the start of it in maybe like the Royals World Series team. That's kind of really where you saw that resurgence of just young talent. And unfortunately, on the flip side of the coin, you see what happened to the Royals is they couldn't afford all that young talent that they had built up
once they got good.
Which is, certain teams have that concern. I'm hoping the Angels won't fall into that category. But it's hard to rely on a farm system, but I think right now in baseball, the way it's gone and the way young players are coming up and playing so well, I think it's the way to do it. I don't think it's the old free agency way, the way that I guess San Diego is trying to do it, or whatever they're trying to do with Machado, stuff like that. It's almost old hat when you look at some of the good young teams around the league right now.
Yeah, look how the Yankees are doing it now. Besides Giancarlo, Judge came up, Andujar came up, Glaber came up. They're all young guys. Well, Glaber, they're traded for, but they're still young guys that they brought up through the farm system, and they didn't make big splashy signings and deals besides a couple. So I think that is the future and the now of how to win. Even the Red Sox, again, they have the highest paying payroll in baseball, but they have a lot of guys that came up in their system too. You need it. There's no other way.
Yeah, I think it's all based on who you build your team around. Like, absolutely. I think like the old Yankees, the way they could build their team around anyone they brought in, really, like in the 90s, stuff like that. But now you got to have a core that you brought up for whatever reason. It makes sense in theory, I guess, but for whatever reason, that hasn't been the way for a while. And I think if your core is people that you trust and people that, and especially coming up through the farm system together. A lot of times that's where a lot of these bonds are made between players that are so good and do like playing for each other in the clubhouse. So I think doing it that way is much more apropos. And I think if the Angels had a good enough plan to lay it out for Trout to where he was willing to stay for another 12 years of what will be a Hall of Fame career when it's all said and done, then I think if he's willing to commit that, then my trust in the Angels to go figure it out, it just goes stronger. Up. Yeah, goes up for sure.
You feel bad for Philly at all?
God, no. I needed a little chaos out of Philly. At least we got something.
I've been saying it.
The spin zones are unreal, though, for everyone in Philly. Just, now we don't have to hear about it. It's like we wouldn't have had to hear about it if you guys didn't want to hear about it in the first place. But that was what you guys wanted to do for the next 2 years, was recruit Trout. And now your team is in front of you, and now you have to decide if that team's legitimately a contender. And if they're not a contender, They say they will. I don't think they're a championship contender. I think they're an NL contender. But
they're an NL East contender.
Yeah. But regardless of where you see them, I mean, this is your team for the next 4 years or so. And I don't see that team winning a World Series, so I think they're going to have to reevaluate again in 4 years. And I think the Phillies' expectations with this Bryce Harper era are going to quickly fall. Like, I think they're going to start holding him to a low, I don't know. I think it's going to get hairy in the next couple of years in Philly, but we got plenty of time to talk about that.
I mean, not to toot my own horn or pat myself on the back, but I have been saying forever, I never saw Mike Trout coming to Philly. I live in the suburbs of Philly. All my friends are like, why wouldn't he? He's such a big Eagles fan. He's from here. He loves Philly. Okay, why does that mean he wants to play there? One, he plays in California better than Philly.
Yes.
2, he's beloved in Philly for not having to do anything in Philly. Why would he want to come there and, God forbid, be a bust and then not be beloved anymore? And then not, he's booed going to Eagles games. He doesn't have to do anything to be loved in Philly besides show up in Eagles green and sit in the front row of an Eagles game and hit home runs for the Angels. Why would he ever want to come to Philly and play?
Exactly. And there's a lot of players that don't want to play for their hometown team.
No.
That grew up loving a team and don't want to play there because one, all your family is there. You never know what your situation's going to be. And you do have to live up to that. It's like anytime a team brings in someone that's from that hometown, like they're immediately put under a little bit of a microscope. And usually it's immediately like, we love this guy. But the minute you realize that they're not as great as they are sometimes, it's immediately a problem, and it's more like magnified, and it kind of ruins that city for some people if it happens to them where it gets ugly. And it's like, you don't want to ruin your hometown city because you didn't play baseball well enough.
Exactly.
So if you're going to call a new place your hometown city for the next 12 years, it might as well be California.
Exactly. And you can still come to Philly and go to every goddamn home Eagles game and be loved. Because even though he didn't come, it's not like Philly fans are going to hate him now. Some may. They're probably burning the jerseys that never existed.
Well, they are generally very rational people.
Yes, very, very rational people. So I know you are. I'm very happy for Trout. I think he deserves this. I'm happy he's staying there.
Yeah, I don't know if we've said that enough either. The guy is the best player of this generation. He deserves every single penny of that if that's what teams are willing to shell out for players. Because if you put it on paper and you just say without the values, without whatever, and you just say, is Mike Trout $100 million better than Bryce Harper? I would tell you absolutely.
Yes.
So when you look at it in the whole scheme of things, $430 million sounds absurd, but if any person in this league deserves it, it's Mike Trout.
Congratulations, Harper. You had the highest paying contract for 2 weeks.
Yep. Hang his hat on that when he retires with no rings.
That's how good he's going to be for Philly. 2 weeks. He's going to have a 2 week stretch where he's going to hit 10 home runs and then he's going to fall into mediocrity. All right. Let's move on because we have a ton of stuff to talk about today besides just Mike Trout throwing a fucking curveball at us today. There was another big signing that we were going to lead the show with today.
Yeah, the Yankees kind of got cucked here in this situation. Tough one for them.
I don't mind it though. Because I don't think this deal needs to be blown out of proportion. And what we're talking about is
I definitely don't.
Gio Gonzalez signs a 1-year minor league deal with the Yanks. He gets $3 million if he's called up to the big league club, and he has an opt-out for this April 20th if he is not on the big league roster by then. So I will start with you, Dubs, Mr. Yankee hater. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine signing. Like, if you're going to get a depth guy and you want to take it, of course, my only complaint is why wouldn't you do it earlier unless they're just set on the fact that they are going to have him be on the roster opening day.
Which I think they are.
Yeah, but if for some reason they don't have him on the roster opening day, I don't understand the point of this. Just because you brought him in for a week with the last couple spring training games left, like that doesn't make sense to me. So this, assuming that he is coming in and he's going to be on this team, which would make sense with the injuries right now, I just don't see how this could be their only pitching move. I would be concerned about the health of my pitching staff when one guy on it is 1,000 years old and about to retire, and another guy on it is on his second injury in the last 8 months, and that's your day one starter is Severino.
And Tanaka's elbow is on borrowed time, I feel like.
Yeah, every Japan pitcher is. And it's so for if Gio Gonzalez does end up being the only signing that you guys have going forward, going into the season, I don't see how that makes you guys much better.
So you're saying you think they should be going after Dallas Keuchel, who's literally
sitting
at home right now?
I think I've been saying it, maybe sarcastically, but I mean, there's no reason. I think the biggest concern for the Yankees right now is their pitching, and I don't think Gio Gonzalez fixed that. And I think getting healthy might fix that, but I don't think they're going to be fully healthy all year looking at who is on their pitching staff. And I think bringing in a guy like Dallas Keuchel changes that a lot. Bringing in a guy like Gio Gonzalez does not.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's kind of a whatever signing? Yeah, but it's also, it's $3 million. Whatever. If he sucks, it's $3 million. It's, that's 12 cents in my pocket compared to the Yankees. So I'm not worried about that. I don't mind the signing, but I am 150% behind you. If this is the only signing that they have to add to this rotation, I'm not happy and they have a problem. CC Sabathia, I don't even count him as part of the rotation. I don't know.
I mean, he's gonna have to be if Sevy's always hurt, and guy like Tanaka's never gonna play a full season. I feel like. Gio Gonzalez, even if he does come in and pitches fine, he's not gonna pitch a whole season. He's not in that type of shape. So it's. I think the health of that starting rotation has been a concern and will continue to be a concern. And I don't think Gio Gonzalez fixes that at all.
Yeah, no, I think he's a depth guy. That's it.
With all that said, I love it because if this is the only move they make, then I'm feeling pretty good as a Sox fan.
All right, relax. I have also been on hashtag shave the beard for months now. I feel like Dallas Keuchel's asking price is going to have to come down unless a big league team loses a number 1 or number 2 starter this week in spring training. I mean, baseball's coming. Baseball's here. Do you really not want to sign with a big league team?
Yeah.
I don't know. Unfortunately, I could see him going back to Houston. That just makes too much sense for me in my head, for Houston, for Dallas.
I think at this point too, it's just comfort level going into a season. You're going to be a lot more comfortable if he's already in the place that he is going to be at. So,
yeah, a guy like him. I mean, can you imagine just signing next week and then coming up and starting your first game for the Yankees in the Bronx? You've been there in a week.
Yeah, that's a lot to deal with, and I don't think they would throw him in right into the fire, especially without a spring training, without anything like that.
They might have to. They don't have anybody else right now.
Yeah, but another team that might be looking for another starter is the Dodgers, because Kershaw will not be ready for opening day officially, and it's I mean, to be perfectly honest, when you look at it from a whole, he's going to be fine. It's not like he's going to come out and be terrible or anything like that. Moving forward in his career with his motion, everything about him screams that he might, start to fall apart eventually. But in the meantime, I mean, it's clearly the safe move to not start him right away if he's not fully healthy.
Why should you?
But how does going into the season unhealthy for the first time and really forever for Kershaw, like, how's that going to affect him moving forward?
I mean, you don't know how that's going to affect him mentally, too, because, like you said, he's never gone into a season like this. So this is uncharted territory for him. So, pitchers, baseball players, but especially pitchers, are creatures of habit. So he's used to spring training and then ready to go for opening day, bang, bang, bang down the line. Now there's a wrench in his wheel. So how first is he going to, respond mentally? I think he's a mentally strong dude. I mean, there's nothing that ever shows that he hasn't been besides his postseason performance, but I don't think that's been a mental thing. So I think he'll be fine there. But it's, it's also the worriness of him. Like you said, he's getting older. People have been saying for years that the wear and tear and the way he throws, there's going to be injuries. Is that in his head now? Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe I mean, not. I don't think I'd worry about him mentally just because he is. I mean, one, he's a veteran. He's been there. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he has to do. He knows where he needs to be at in October, come October. But I think what I would be most worried about is him just being there in October, because the biggest problem with coming into the season unhealthy is it means your spring training and your off-season workouts were disrupted. Like you didn't get in the same type of, or you weren't able to get in the same type of workout that you might have in a year that you're healthy going into the season. So you feel different going into the year. And that can affect you short-term and long-term. So I think not having that full spring training and not having a healthy off season. I mean, you see it in physical contact sports a lot more, but I think that can definitely affect Kershaw long term and short term this season. So I would be concerned if I'm the Dodgers, and maybe you do look at a Keuchel or something like that, just to add a little top end depth to that rotation and make you feel a lot more comfortable if a Kershaw isn't 100% come later in the season.
But I would absolutely rather see him start on the DL than start opening day, then, have a setback and then have it, So I think they're playing it the right way.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking the Dodgers at all. No, I think they're playing it absolutely correctly. I just think not having a fully healthy offseason is definitely affects players. It always does. I mean, whenever you feel comfortable, you even see it to teams, you see the hangover, the postseason hangover, where it's you played so many games into October and now you didn't get a full offseason and now you're behind the 8 ball already. It's the same thing if you're hurt.
Well, and that's with the Dodgers. They've gone deep in October 2 years in a row. So.
Yeah, double fold with him. So I think it's definitely something to be concerned about, and I think bringing in a guy like Keuchel would serve the Dodgers well. But
I mean, Keuchel's he's got to sign somewhere soon. No, I mean, are we really going to go to opening day without Keuchel and Kimbrel on major league teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely going without Kimbrel at this point. But I think because the door is still open in Houston for Keuchel, there's a chance we won't. But I think at this point we're 9 days away from opening day. Tomorrow, technically, the league season starts with which we'll get to in a second. But the league season starts with the Japan series, so it's here. It's here, right in front of us. And I don't think Keuchel's going to be on a team, and I definitely don't think Kimbrel is. So
it blows my mind, especially with two massive spending usually teams in the Yankees and the Dodgers both needing some help in the starting rotation. You have a guy like Dallas Keuchel, and neither of them seem to be.
You start to wonder if he's not in shape, or because he didn't have a bad season. I mean, we've talked about it before. I think he was in the mid 3s for his ERA. Like, he had an okay season. I think he was banged up a little bit, but you would think that's a guy that you don't want to immediately bring in if he's available, especially this late at a discount, and they're not. So it makes you think there's either an issue or there's an issue with the teams. But
I don't know, man.
Anyways, as we mentioned, the season is officially beginning.
If you're
listening to this on Wednesday, which you would be, the season has already begun. Game's at 5:30 Eastern.
You gonna be up?
No, but we'll see. I'll say we'll see, but I'll record it because I do want to see I'll tell you right now, if you aren't considering recording this, record the series.
Yes,
Ichiro
100%.
in Japan. He might just. My guess is he's just going to retire after the series. I don't see the point in continuing to play on. He's the 6th oldest player to ever start on opening day. It has been announced that he's starting in the Seattle is playing Oakland in Japan to start the season on Wednesday. I mean, it's gonna be a madhouse. If you watch any clips from any type of big baseball game in Japan, it looks like a soccer game in Europe. Like, it's absolutely
the sounds are unbelievable,
and it's unreal. And when Ichiro's name gets announced, it's gonna be an incredible moment. It's gonna make you feel like, first of all, it's gonna make you feel like baseball's back, which is the best part of all of it. That's why you should be recording it. But I mean, it's gonna be a very memorable moment in baseball history. It's international, like it's a world moment in baseball history that you'll definitely want to witness. So definitely, probably don't wake up at 5:30. That's tough. If you do, congrats. Let us know. You. Tweet at us. We'll try and get back to you. But I will be watching it tomorrow on repeat, and I'm excited for it, for the season and just for Ichiro himself. I mean, he's been around our whole life. So.
And I mean, we've trashed the Mariners, and who knows what Oakland's going to be this year. But don't see it's the Mariners and the A's and think, I don't need to watch that. Like Dub said, it's much more than just the Mariners and the A's playing baseball. It's going to be a complete spectacle. And I don't know if you saw, there was a video of Ichiro. Did you see he threw a cannon from right field to third the other day? Just a frozen rope. And
he's a freak.
He still got it. He is.
He's a freak.
I love seeing him out there always
45
stretching.
years old or whatever. He's an absolute freak. He's fully gray. It's awesome. I love all of it.
I mean, I want him to play till he's like 97 years old and just still in the outfield stretching.
I mean, it's going to be weird to have a league without Ichiro in it.
It is.
And it's if you're a baseball fan, you should be watching this moment. Absolutely, hands down. I mean, it's going to be one of the moments where at the end of the year, we look back on and we say, that was a cool moment. That was something that I remember from this season.
And yeah, you and I think, are somewhat excited about the London series. I think maybe me a little bit more because we're not losing home games. But, I mean, this series is going to be a much bigger spectacle, I think, than the series in London.
Absolutely.
The fans in London are just going to
yeah, if you think this like Japanese series or something is like the NFL in London, like it's not so different. I mean, baseball is so huge in Japan. Like it's massive. Like Manny's still playing over there. Who knows?
Yep.
But it's like, I mean, it's a massive deal and it's going to be cool. It's going to be like the World Baseball Classic a few years ago and stuff like that. Despite Seattle and Oakland not being all that great, this is going to be a cool moment. So
yeah, it's like a World Cup scene, literally.
Absolutely.
For baseball. So it's a, sport we care more about, but with the passion that, world soccer teams have. I don't know if you have never seen the movie Mr. Baseball, it's an unbelievably underrated sports movie, but it's about a washed up baseball player who played for the Yanks, and then he goes over and has to play in Japan. He hates it, but then he loves it. But it's the same kind of things. If you're in the movie, the scenes of the baseball over there, it's pandemonium, and it's awesome to watch. So, make sure you're watching it. I know it's, we get this series and then boom, they come back and then we have to wait for real opening day. But, don't let that upset you. Don't let that, think this isn't real. Get into it. Like Dub said, baseball is back literally today as you're listening to this. It already happened. Baseball's here. And to start in Japan, I remember when the Yanks played there, when Matsui was playing, it was awesome. And this is going to be awesome. Actually, even more awesome than that because Ichiro's, a much more recognizable player than Matsui is. So,
I mean, that's their guy. Ichiro is the son of Japan. Like that is the end all be all of Japanese players is Ichiro Suzuki, and he's going over there and retiring in a fashion that, I mean, no other international player has ever been able to do anything like this and go out on these type of terms. So it's awesome. It's going to be an emotional moment. It's going to be a fun moment. It's going to be an awesome moment, and I can't wait. One that we'll talk about in the future and stuff like that. But get ready.
And if you do watch it, like Dub said, tweet at us. Let us know what you think. But just get involved. Baseball's here, and this is a really, really cool way to start the season.
But moving on, we do have some new rule changes as this year is beginning.
Yes, it is.
Start off with the rules that are going into place for this season. The two big ones are one trade deadline on July 31st. Don't understand why it took so long.
Yeah, right.
But they've gotten rid of the second trade deadline. That made no sense to begin with.
I always forgot about the second trade deadline.
Everyone does.
And then I'm like, wait, what?
I mean, real like trades that matter have gone down after July 31st.
Verlander.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane the deals that get done after the trade deadline. So it's, I mean, making it one, I don't know why it took this long. But anyways, they have made the change and it will be implemented this season.
I like it.
And then they've also reduced mound visits from 6 to 5. Obviously, they added the mound visit limit, last year or 2 years ago?
Last year, yeah.
So they added that. So now they brought it down to 5, which it didn't seem to be much of an issue last season. So I don't foresee it being an issue this season.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the rules for next season are much more interested that have been
much
approved.
Bigger.
So for 2020 season, there will be a 3-batter minimum for every pitcher. Huge one. Minimum DL stint of 10 to 15 days, or from 10 to 15 days. So it has been 10, so now it will be 15. And That really just has to do with pitchers and people kind of working around starts and stuff like that and manipulating it. They're kind of just trying to get rid of that. The biggest one, I think, the biggest one that will be very noticeable is rosters will be up to 26 players as opposed to 25. And then they've basically done away with September call-ups.
Mm-hmm.
They'll only expand from 26 to 28 in September. So you're going to have to pick the cream of the crop in September. And you kind of, I mean, if we want to get into this one right away, this is the one that kind of bothers me a little bit just because I think September call-ups are good for bad teams. Like, I think when you get a real opportunity to see what you have in the farm system compared to MLB talent in September, that is very valuable to a team. And I think taking that away is, I think the idea is to make games a little more competitive in September, even if a team is out of it.
Yep.
But I think in reality, this kind of hurts your team as you're trying to build it. Some of those bad teams, like I think it like impedes on them getting to become better. Not the Reds. The Reds will never be good.
We need our daily jab at Cincinnati.
Yeah. But I think this severely impedes a team trying to build their team for the future when it comes to September call-ups being basically done away with.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, I don't mind it for the contending teams. I don't mind it for the teams that are absolutely, in the playoffs that makes them pick the cream of the crop. They can't just call everybody up. They'll never do it, but would you like a rule where it's kind of like split in half? If you're out of playoff contention, you can have September call-ups, but if you are set for the playoffs, stay at the 28. And that'll never happen. But
yeah, no, I don't even think it has to be that complicated. Even if you brought it, so even if you wanted,
30?
If you did want to narrow it down, yeah, meet us halfway, even 35 or 32, whatever you wanted to call it, meet us halfway. I mean, some of these teams are really going to suffer by not knowing what they have in the farm system and then banking on those players to come up and be their future and then finding out they're not all that good. And then that's another season or two just wasted right there. On just a few players, even it could be a whole season wasted because you didn't get a chance to see what they could do in the MLB in something like a September call up.
So what's their big reason behind it?
I don't know. I read, to be honest, I read all of them on a blog and I kind of formed my own idea of what I wanted to see. But I assume their reasons are really just to keep games more competitive.
Yeah, I think so.
Because if you have MLB talent, all MLB talent up there, regardless of if your team's good or bad or whatever, the games are going to be better with the better talent. I understand that. I understand the reasoning, but there's plenty of good September games where there are plenty of division games that matter. Like if you want to make September more exciting and more enjoyable or more viewed, then you just you can just go all division games in September. Like just go, you're only really playing your division in September, and that's what you do.
I love it.
And that's how you make it exciting. Like you don't do stuff, you mess with who you're playing. You don't mess with what players are out there because I think it really does impede on the growth of teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's what football does. I mean, the last couple of weeks are always your division. The Cowboys are always playing the Eagles or the Giants the last game of the season. So it makes perfect sense. And I think it does hurt a team like, I will say, the Reds or the Royals. How else are these, teams going to be able to see these players not in minor league parks, or how they're going to respond when they're playing at Fenway, or you need to see those things, because playing in Albuquerque compared to playing at Fenway is a big thing too. It's not even just can he hit major league pitching. There's so much around it, and also so much for these young guys that get a taste, and then that who knows, the minor league stint is a grind, right? You're on the bus all day. Some guys are like, is it ever going to happen? But if they get that taste, you never know what that'll do to a player. Yeah,
and also just, I mean, seeing a guy in action and seeing him in front of you is so much different than getting a scouting report. You forget there's so many freaking baseball players everywhere.
Yep.
So many minor leagues, so many divisions, so many blah 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 blah. Like a manager in the roster that you have formed isn't going to see your star player in the minors. They're just not. They're going to see him in spring training, and then they're not going to see him again until they're with your ball club. So if you're just kind of relying on scouts, you have no idea how that guy's going to look with the clubhouse, who's going to like him, not like him, if he's a dick, if he's a good player, if he sucks. Like all these things you learn really only when you throw him into the fire And I think taking away the ability to do that for teams that need their young players to succeed is harmful to the growth of some of these teams that they're trying to build up the fan base for.
And I would say, out of all these rules this year and next year coming up, I could see this being the one that's backtracked from. This one being, I could see the three. We'll see how it plays out. The pitchers having to see three batters and all that.
And I think that one probably affects the actual game of baseball most.
The most,
obviously.
Absolutely. And I kind of want to see it. It's you see these guys come in, it's one, and then commercial. One guy comes, another. The game goes on till 1 a.m. because of that sometimes. So I don't mind that. Pace the game, speed it up. It's a little more strategy. But I could see that one holding, where I could see, let's say 2 years down the line, and all these teams that aren't getting better and they're not being able to see these young players complaining to the commissioner's office, being like, listen, what is, you're just hindering us. We're not getting better because we can't see what our younger players can do.
Yeah. And I do think I've gone so internally back and forth with the 3-batter minimum, where part of me is like, I don't like that it's there, just because I do think, I mean, if it's a pressure situation, you got 2 guys in running in scoring position, you have a guy that comes up and you have a lefty that can shut that guy down in your bullpen, but your guy's only 2 batters in, and you can't bring that guy in. I don't like that you can't do that. I think it's almost like
taking baseball out of baseball almost.
Not even. I just think it's I like that part of the game. I kind of like that those distinct moments where there's such an aggressive mental battle between the managers and how it goes on. But in the other respect, I think you're gonna get better relievers out of this. Like I think you weed out a lot of those guys that really didn't serve much of a purpose, and they were, 1 out lefty specialists or 1 out righty specialist, whatever it may be. I think you got to be a better player now to be a reliever in the MLB, and you got to do more than you probably ever have had to do in the history of baseball. So I think it's good in that respect, and I think in the future it will be good. I think it'll be weird getting used to it, though.
Oh, it's going to be very
It takes
weird.
A lot of the managing out of baseball, except, now you got to look ahead, I guess. So now it's just a different type of managing. So I think it's a curveball that you wouldn't expect to affect a lot of guys, but I think a lot of managers will have trouble trying to game plan for that, especially in the first half of the season next year when they have to implement that.
I can't wait to see the first manager go out there trying to take his guy out after 2 batters, and
I wonder what. I suppose as a journalist I should have looked that up, but I'm not a real journalist, so I didn't. So.
And I could see it happening where the home plate doesn't even realize, and then it happens, and then what happens? What happens if no one realizes? They take the guy out, then the new pitcher's in warming up, but then they realize that they bring the other pitcher back. Like,
there's got to be a real rule. I just
there has
don't
to be.
know it. So, with that little tidbit of us being idiots, we'll move
on. We're fun idiots, though. You can be an idiot and have some fun and actually talk about some shit.
Yeah, I think we get. Yeah.
Speaking of talking about shit, would you like to talk about the Red Sox?
Oh, okay.
Hey-o.
Yeah, I'll talk about the Sox. That was fair. Or not fair, but it was a good one. Unfortunately, with the Sox, we keep starting with bad news, despite really me not having any worries about the Sox. Yep. This one, a little less tragic, luckily, is Pedroia will start the season on the DL or IL or injury, whatever
Reserve.
You want to call it.
Yep.
He will be in the minors to start the season, and from all accounts, it sounds precautionary. Pedroia has been very open about him feeling ready to come back, but I think the Red Sox are in every position to take their time.
Mm-hmm.
And if that means another month or whatever it may be for Pedroia to be 100% when he is back, then I think that's a smart thing to do, because I think they have all the weapons they clearly had all the weapons to
last year
to come back from not having Pedroia, so I don't see any reason to rush him back.
It's like the Kershaw thing. You'd rather him start on the DL than go, into the season, then have a setback, and then that,
Yeah, so I like the move, but it's it certainly sounds like Pedroia's getting antsy, though. Like, it's not a situation where Pedroia was very happy, it seemed. I mean, he's never going to come out and assert his displeasure or whatever it may be, but I think he definitely is very antsy to be back, and that excites me, but I don't want him to go out and get himself hurt again because he does. I mean, when he's been out for a while, so you kind of forget about Pedroia, but he plays balls to the walls 100% of the time. So
he is just a ball player.
So he's not going to stop doing that. So I'd rather him be 100% when you put him in that situation and have everyone involved in the situation be comfortable with him being back.
I hate it, but I agree with it.
Yeah. But anyways, there is a closer role to be had since we are not bringing Kimbrel back. And right now it's looking like Brazier and Barnes are battling for the closer role.
Okay.
My question to you before I give my take on this, who would you rather see as the Yankees, or who would you not want to see as a Yankee fan between Brazier and Barnes in the next?
I think I'd rather not see Barnes. I don't know. For some reason, he scares me a little bit.
I like that because I think I'd rather have Brazier.
Okay.
I think he's just more consistent. I think Barnes is probably the better pitcher when they're both on.
Yep.
But I think Brazier is just a little more consistent, and I think the closer role is less important nowadays. Mm-hmm. And I think the one thing that you do need in the role is consistency. And I think if Brazier can do that, Barnes can continue being a really good eighth inning guy, and I think you feel a lot more comfortable in that role. But
so who do you think wins it?
I think Barnes wins it originally, and I think that's really because it seems like Cora really takes to Barnes. I think they like both of them a lot. I mean,
maybe
Brazier
that's why
is really
scares me too.
Yeah, Brazier
does is right.
Yeah, which is, so who am I to judge him if I think Brazier should be a closer and he doesn't? But I think Brazier was a really, really nice surprise last season, and he pitched unbelievable when he needed to. And I think he earned it in that year, but I think Barnes has been here for a long time, and he's established in this organization. Like I said, I think Cora really likes Barnes, and he throws harder, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking for a closer and you want your closer to be a flamethrower, Barnes is a much harder throwing pitcher than Brazier.
Yep.
So I
think both of them will be. I mean,
yeah,
I think they'll be fine either way, honestly.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think a closer role is all that important anymore. I mean,
you put
your
clearly
best going away with a lot of teams, and we'll get to some pitching roles with the Yankees. But the other big news out of Sox camp is Sale will be starting. I guess it's really not big news. No shit, he's starting opening day.
Really?
But I don't know.
On their
I'm just still so salty about the way the Red Sox start the season.
Just saying,
10 road games to start the season. I don't have to do the rant again, but it's absolutely absurd. So really, I'm just
ranting again.
Yeah, talking about Sale starting opening day was just another reason for me to complain about the schedule.
So wait, hold on. So Sale starting opening day, not in Fenway, raising the World Series banners. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think Game 11 is at Fenway, so there is possibility that he's in rotation to start the home
11. How do the World Series fucking champs have to wait till Game 11 to raise their banner?
We might, at this point, we might just raise two of them at once. We'll just win one this year, and then we can just do it 2 for 1. It's easier that way. I understand it,
Yeah, they're just,
Yeah. Why waste money when you got to do it again? So it makes sense, but
it really is a slap in the face.
It's disrespectful.
And that scares me because I want everyone to throw roses at their feet and kiss their feet and be so nice to them because they don't need any more motivation. I don't want them pissed off.
Yeah, and I don't think they'll use the schedule as motivation, but I think it's bullshit. I think
you never know though. Cora will say something about it, and then it'll just be like, "Hey, look, there's no picture on the wall."
I mean, realistically, a 10 game road trip to start the season, depending on where they're going, which I think some of it's out in the West Coast. Like, I guess you can live it up a little bit. First 10 games of the season don't really matter. Go out there and have a good time.
Yeah, it'll be warm. They don't want to play in 32-degree weather.
Training. It's an extended spring training for them, but as a fan, it's bullshit.
Yeah, they don't have to have the caps on with the little ears.
At Fenway with the championship, like it's been nice out. We've been having parades. It's been gorgeous up here. We got it's mid 40s, 50s now. Like you can play baseball in that.
Game 1, it should be Poppy throwing out the first pitch saying, "This is my fucking town."
Well, Tom Brady, because they just won a championship. As I said, we've been having
Ortiz is more.
So
yeah,
but after trust me, I've seen plenty of Patriots championships, and I've seen every single year they win, they come out and throw the first pitch, opening up.
I can't wait till I know you when you're like 42 and you haven't seen one championship in 20 years.
It's going to be actually this opening day, now that I think about it, at Fenway or home opener is going to be awesome because you're going to have the Red Sox trophy there. You're going to have the Patriots trophy there. Hell, Poppy probably will be there. Pedro will be hanging out talking to Erod. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be trophies everywhere. We're going to win again, and then we're just going to bring more back. And then in like a week after their home opener, the Bruins will win the Stanley Cup, and it's going to be so awesome.
Yep. And then the Celtics will win the. Yep.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about JBJ's new swing and how I think it has the Red Sox to the closest thing to a perfect outfield the league has ever seen. But I'll save that for another day because I think I did my fun Red Sox rant. But stay tuned for that. I'll probably blog about it. JBJ's new swing is so pretty, and the outfield got even better.
I'm going to be on my toes waiting for that one, sitting on the edge of my seat. All right. Something that you and I talked about, switching to Yankees talk. My manager, Aaron Boone, stated, I'm not going to listen to you, that he may use an opener this season. And I want to vomit all over the microphone.
All right, before we continue, can you explain what an opener is? Because it took me about 10 minutes to figure out what the hell they were talking about when I read it.
It means you don't have a starter. It means you're throwing out a reliever to start the game to throw 1, maybe 2 innings as your opener of the game. It's like the opposite of a closer. It's what the A's did all year last year. It's what the Rays did all last year, besides Snell. When you don't have, 5, 6 stud starters, they kind of piecemeal games together. And they may have, the opener start, pitch 1 to 2 innings, and then they have a guy go, 3, 4 innings, and then another reliever. The A's did that in the wild card game against the Yankees, and we all saw how that worked out awfully. So, yes, the Yankees have one of the best bullpens in baseball. It could be one of the best bullpens in baseball history. But it's not baseball to me. Do I need my starter going 8 innings every night? No. But I want a starter in there to start the game, and we get to the relievers when we have to.
So does this say more? Does this say more about how bad of a manager Aaron Boone is, or how bad your starting rotation is?
I think it's the rotation. Who knows? The opener it's a very hot topic right now. It's a very, I call millennial term, analytics, whatever you want to say. So maybe he's just trying to be hip to the game and talk about that. I don't even know what the context was. I know he just said it, which pisses me off anyway.
Well, I think they're using one either today or tomorrow for preseason game.
I don't mind that. See how it goes in spring training. It's fine. But as soon as game 1 starts, give me a starter. Game 2, I want a starter. Game 3 to 162, I want a starter starting every game. I don't need an opener. Dallas, Keuchel. It's another reason we need another starter. Here we go. That's what is that? Scenario number 64 of why they should sign Keuchel?
Yeah, I have a hot take.
Did they sign Gio Gonzalez to be an opener? Is he going to start every third day and just pitch 2 innings?
I have a hot take that I don't know if it's a hot take with the Yankee fans. I don't know if they're already thinking this, but this is my hot take. I don't think Aaron Boone survives this season.
Wow.
I think he's fired before the end of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't see it. He's a puppet.
I do. I think there's a level of stupid within Aaron Boone that he's not going to get over the hump of. And I give the Yankees management credit enough to know to recognize that. I feel like they should, at least, even though they were the ones that canned
Girardi,
but for Aaron Boone. But I think it's already evident that Aaron Boone isn't the brightest bulb. I mean, that Yankees roster is too talented. I know they won 100 games. I know they hit a ton of home runs, but it was poorly managed at a lot of different times last season. And I think absolutely. If that continues and he's trying stuff like a closer or an opener or whatever, I think little things like that will quickly become too much of a problem with the fan base, with the management, and with the team. I mean, the team has to trust their manager. A team's no good if they don't trust their manager. And I don't see any reason for this Yankees roster to trust Aaron Boone. So I think the Yankees aren't afraid to do something like that and just can him. I mean, think that's my hot take. I think he'll get canned before the end of the season.
All right, I don't think he'll get canned mid-season. I mean, that's going to say that they're, I don't see the Yankees canning their manager if they're, on pace to win 100 games. If they're on pace, you don't think, okay. Well, shut up. Do I think he will be in hot water if he's doing this opener shit with upper management and especially Yankee fans? Yeah. Stuff like that doesn't fly in the Bronx. Stuff like that works for teams like Tampa Bay where there's 7 fans there and they're trying to do everything they can to win games. Yeah, again, if you forgot, the Rays won 90 games last year doing this kind of shit. But it doesn't matter in the Bronx. It's the same way. If it happened in Boston, fans would go nuts. It's just it's not baseball.
I mean, the way I looked at John Farrell, despite him he won us the World Series. I think a lot of people forget he was the manager of the 2013 team. I don't think he had anything to do with that. I think he
had a team
really was
going to win.
Yep. Yeah, I think he was just there, and I thought he should have been fired a long time ago. And I think the Yankees will use that as a barometer and look at that situation and be like, well, we don't want to be the guy that held on to the John Farrell for 3 extra years or anything like that. And I think I really don't think the players take to Aaron Boone all that well. I think they question his decisions a lot. And I think on a team that's so magnified as the Yankees and a team that's so talented where you guys are in a win now mode. I mean, you guys have a win now team. You don't have a future team. You don't have a whatever. It's a team where this next 4 years are very vital. Yes. So if you dick around for too long with the wrong manager or the wrong people around your team, I think that becomes a problem. And I think there will be a level of dysfunction that will start to grow quickly within that Yankees roster with Aaron Boone at the helm. And I think if the Yankees are smart, they will get rid of him as soon as they get a hint of that, opposed to waiting until it's too late and their team isn't as good.
They go back and get Girardi?
I would have never fired him. I know a lot of Yankees fans would agree with me, but
I agree completely.
It never made sense at the time, and it doesn't make sense now. And Aaron Boone's not. I don't think he's anywhere close to some of these other young managers around the league that are doing so well.
That you could see how hard that Yankee team played for Girardi in those playoffs. Yes, he made the stupid, pitching change that that they should have never against the Indians, and that kind of put him even in more hot water. But I mean, the thumbs down thing, the comeback, and that's there was frankly, unfortunately, I think a lot of it came down to analytics. He doesn't, and money. They didn't want to pay premium money for a manager, which blows my mind. Like, you get what you pay for. You
especially the way you have to manage pitching now too. It's I think the manager probably plays a bigger role in today's game than they ever have, and I think I think you can't argue it for any other generation. I mean, it used to be you don't ever have to take out a starter, that you don't have to manage that. Shifts are kind of a new thing now. Like, it's all these different decisions that managers have to make. They're all new, and they're all something that you can look at, former managers and older managers that were great. You can't really do what they did and succeed in today's MLB. So I think, I don't know. I can't see Aaron Boone being here for very long. And I could see him getting fired before the end of this season. And if it's not, I think after this season, I think that he's gone. I don't think, anything short of winning a championship, I don't think it matters how far they get in the postseason. I think they were willing to can Girardi after a good season. They're going to be willing to can Boone.
I'm not going to fight you. I mean, the only thing I'm going to fight you on here is that they're not going to be contenders and have a bad season, but I'm not going to fight you on getting rid of Boone because I think
they'll be contenders. I just don't think they'll be up at the 100 mark again. I think they'll probably be 92 win team, 93 win team. I think the Red Sox will probably max out at 100. I don't think that type of early season fire where we went on a 17-3 run to start the season will be what happens again either. Like, I don't think you can sustain that type of success.
I would say if they're not in the World Series next year, he's gone.
Next year or this year?
This year, in the next World Series.
Yep.
I would say that he's gone. Yeah, and you're so right. I remember I'm going to tangent for 2 seconds here, but I remember in the 90s seeing Joe Torre and Don Zimmer sitting on the bench with their big coats, just leaning back, and I think I saw Torre get up twice during a game. And
yeah, just scratch his ass and sneeze.
Yeah, literally, and then put Mariano in.
Yeah.
And it's so different now. It really is unbelievable.
You have to be a very involved manager, and I don't think if your clubhouse doesn't trust a guy, I don't see how you succeed as a baseball team. And I don't think that Yankees roster trusts Aaron Boone right now, and I don't think he's going to do anything to sway that.
Speaking of trusting a guy, obviously they put their trust in Aaron Hicks for 7 years, $70 million, and he will be starting the season not on the active roster for the first series. So, there's talk now do both Bird and Voit make the opening day roster? Jacoby Ellsbury is back. Speaking of him, so he came to camp Monday, did his introductions to the team because no one knows who the hell he is. Aaron Judge was like, "Who is this little dinosaur man walking through the?"
They played
the
icebreaker games.
Yes, they did. Hi, I'm Jacoby. I am a thief of lots of money. But he said so.
He's like, Jacoby, Aaron, I feel you. You got the same thing going on.
He said he's doing baseball activities. Hopes to be back as soon as possible. Said it hasn't been easy, and he was very emotional to talking about not being on the field. And they said there is no timetable for his return, but he is headed in the right direction, whatever the hell that means.
I was going to say, what do you consider the right direction? The major leagues
or just like being able to walk in a straight line?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So
good winning a game like Pepper. Like I don't know how working Jacoby Ellsbury into this lineup or that outfield serves him any good. As much as I've ripped on Aaron Hicks, I don't think Aaron Hicks is most certainly a better option than Ellsbury.
Some more games this year, too low or Jacoby?
I don't know. Probably too low. Definitely not over. Neither of them are playing over 50 games. I'll tell you that much.
It really is unbelievable for such a prized organization and such a team that's in a win now mode that we just have these funny things like a Jacoby Ellsbury or, giving Hicks $7 million for like 7 years.
You have like active dead money on the
Yankees. Oh yeah, literally.
Like it's every team has dead money somewhere. We've got it in Sandoval. Most teams don't have dead money and then also just have those players still on their roster.
I think the Rangers are still paying A-Rod.
Most teams still have dead money and they just get rid of the player and they figure out the money off the books. The Yankees are like, nope, we're riding this out. Like they got 1,000 wives and none of them want to be with them anymore, and they don't like them very much either.
But they're paying alimony.
Yep. It's been an ugly divorce.
That's pretty much it. We got Jacoby playing, but Aaron Hicks is not. I mean, Judge is being Judge. He's had a really great spring. Some of the other guys have as well, but nothing crazy going on. So I just, we got, like you said, 8 days when you're listening to this. So I'm just ready for some damn baseball to be real with the Yankees. That's about it for me.
I'm getting anxious. I need it.
I know. It's just like at this point, the sun is out later. It's just, it's like, all right, baseball's coming. Bring it to me.
And with baseball coming, we're going to talk about ESPN. They released their top 100 players. And
hopefully it's better than USA Today's over-unders.
I'll say it's better than that. I wouldn't say I love it. So we'll start with ESPN's top 10.
Okay.
Coming in at number 1, Mike Trout. And then from there, Mookie Betts. We discussed those two. I think that's the right order.
Yep.
Then you have Max Scherzer, Jake DeGrom, Nolan Arenado, Alex Bregman, Christian Yelich, Lindor, Sale, and Altuve. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think they have a lot of the right players. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't necessarily agree with where they are, but when it comes down to, it's almost nitpicking when it comes down to the position.
Oh, yeah.
But we like to nitpick. So we made our own top 10.
Nitpicking.
Doesn't differ too much from theirs as far as who's in there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, names won't be too different, but I mean, we mixed it up a lot with who we have where, because I think we both agree that their list was a little wonky when it came to their top 10.
All right, so who's your 10?
So we'll do this a little, not a snake draft because that'll get complicated, but we'll start at 10 and work our way down with each person.
Mm-hmm.
I have at number 10 a guy who I don't know if you asked me to do it on my own without looking at ESPN's list, I would have put him at number 10. I might have had him between 10 and 15. But because I thought he was so disrespected by this list, I have Javi Baez at number 10.
Okay.
And
where was he on their list?
ESPN had Javi Baez at number 29.
Yeah, that's
which was okay. I thought was so utterly disrespectful to my man Javi Baez, a man who is one of the most marketable people in baseball, one of the best players in baseball, one of the most electric players in baseball.
Could win the NL MVP this year.
Yep, could have won it last year. I thought the disrespect to have him down at 29 was to the point where I had to have him in my top 10. So I have Javi Baez at number 10.
I respect that, and I agree with that. I think that 29 is just, I mean,
preposterous.
9, okay.
Yeah.
19, no, but more okay. 20, no, stop.
10 to 15 is where I probably would have had him if I did the list on my own. But to have him at 29 was goddamn disrespectful.
Stupid. All right, so I was like torn on 10. It was between Sale and Altuve, and I just kind of said a tie between the two of them. You know, one's a position player, one's a pitcher. So
on if the you spot said right Sale, now you got to pick one.
All right, Altuve, just because he's a little short guy, and I love what he does. No disrespect to Sale, I could easily put Sale in there. He's a stud. Yeah. Obviously, both of these players have hurt my Yankees in the playoffs. But yeah, I'll put Altuve there. I think his story, what he does from a leader standpoint, as well as a player on the field, he's a top 10 player to me.
Yep, and I have Altuve on my list too. When we get to him, I'll talk a little more about him. But I couldn't. Okay. Or actually, I'll bang it out now. I couldn't agree. I have him at sneak peek. I have him at 8.
Okay.
I think he's the best player on that Astros team still, and I think he's at any point in time is capable of being a league MVP. I think Altuve is so integral to that Houston team. I think if you take anyone else off that Houston team, they can survive as long as Altuve is there.
Yeah.
And I think him playing the middle of the infield, everything he does is at an elite level. And I think I put him at 8, and I couldn't agree more. He's absolutely a top 10 player, and they had him right there at number 10 as well on ESPN. So.
Yeah. All right. So you had him at 8. We'll just shoot back up. I had Lindor at 9.
I did too, actually.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
So we agree there. I mean, I think he's a fun player. He's a great player.
Yeah. I think there's really not, like, you can't say enough about an elite shortstop like Lindor. Like, it's one of the hardest positions to be elite at in the field and also be a great hitter. And Lindor does both those things. And I think that's just so valuable to any team.
And he got some bonus points from me because he was one of the best guys mic'd up during the All-Star game. He was awesome.
Absolutely. Great. A lot of these young guys are. Those old, I don't even want to say the word I was going to say. These old baseball writers just get their head out of their ass and figure out how in the world to market these unbelievably marketable players.
So easy.
We'll have quite a thing here in this old MLB. This whole mom and pop shop MLB league here. There might be something.
Baseball. Wow.
Yeah. But at number 7, I obviously said I had Altuve. Who do you have in at number 7? Or 8. Sorry. Thank you.
Aaron Judge. All rise. I feel like, is it a little biased of me having him in the top 10? Maybe.
Yes.
But I think he is one of the faces of the game. I think he's very underrated for his play in the outfield. I feel like he's got a cannon for an arm. For as big as he is, he's a lot more athletic than people think he is if you haven't watched him play the field. And he just mashes, and that smile with the teeth. He's a top 10 player for me. Yes, he's a little biased because he's on my team, but I didn't put him in the top 5.
Yeah, well, if we could all do what Kevin wanted to do and have 10 A's and 10 B's and have 15 people in the top 10, then I'd probably have Judge in the top 10. But
I put Altuve and I made it. Altuve's 10, Lindor is 9, Judge is 8.
All right, my number 8 was Altuve. On to my number 7. This is where I had Chris Sale. I think He's been doing it for so long at such an elite level. He's coming off finally getting a ring. I mean, I don't want to go on and on about Sale, but he's a top 10 player for sure, and I have him at 7 because I just think there's better pitchers in the league than him, but there's very few that have been doing it as long as he has. So I don't see any reason for him to stop doing what he's been doing. So I expect more of that, and I have him at 7. So
I will not fight you on that. I will give you that. My number 7, it's another guy on that Houston team who I believe you do not have in your top 10, Alex Bregman.
I'll tell you why. Actually, here, you can go ahead first. You talk.
No, I feel like, again, he's a stud. He mashes. He plays the corner. He's a great player. And he's a key to that Astros team. He can almost do it all. I would love him on my squad. So, I mean, I just think he's a top 10 guy.
The only reason I left him off was because every list I seem to be seeing has Bregman as a better player than Altuve. And I as great of a year as he had last year, Bregman that is, I don't think he's at the level of Altuve yet. And I think even if you asked him, he might agree. Like, yeah. I think a lot of people look up to Altuve in that locker room, and no pun intended, but I think a lot of people look up to Altuve, and I think he is still the man in that Houston locker room, and I still think he's the best player on that team. So I think to have Bregman ahead of Altuve was just unfair, so I had to take him off the list altogether. I just couldn't have Bregman up there. And he's going to be an unbelievable player, and he's going to have a great career. And
yes,
it's not to take away anything from Bregman, but I can't have him above Altuve. It doesn't make sense to me yet.
All right.
6, I have Max Scherzer. Another pitcher. I think really one of the few pitchers in the league where you can argue has had a longer, better resume than Sale is Max Scherzer. And I think coming off an unbelievable year, I mean, him and Sale and a couple others were competing for that Cy Young. Max Scherzer he's great. I mean, there's certain guys in the league where you can't say much about it until you just sit there and watch him and mow guys down. So,
and he has 2 different colored eyes, which is awesome.
Yeah, and being in his former days in Detroit and everything like that, we've seen plenty of him postseason, regular season, what have you. He's a menace, and he's absolutely a top 10 player. So couldn't agree more with ESPN's list having him on there.
All right, so my 6 and 5 I could easily flip flop. So a 6 I had DeGrom. He's a stud again. I mean, he's buried on the Mets, unfortunately. So that kind of maybe is sort of why I put him at 6, not 5. I mean, what he did last year with the lack of run support that he had, or any help was disgusting. It was.
It was better than that Arrieta season. That was unbelievable.
Yes. Yep.
And it's so fucked up that he's on the Mets because
it really is.
I mean, that could have been the best season we've ever seen in our lives, and we're never going to talk about it again. Like, people aren't going to look back in 10 years or whatever it may be and say, God, do you remember that DeGrom season? Because the Mets just are that bad and that dismal. And it really is depressing for him because he deserves to probably be higher on our list,
absolutely,
on ESPN's list, but it's just, he should be the top ranked pitcher in the MLB after his season last year. And because he's on the Mets, it's not the case.
Imagine him like on the Brewers last year. It would have been talk of Major League Baseball. So
yeah.
All right, and then 5. So this is my flip flop here. I had Scherzer at 5. So same kind of thing as you. I mean, I'm not really gonna dive any more deep in. He's been the ace of that staff for years. I mean, he's been doing it forever. He did it in Detroit. Absolutely. So I mean, he's a stud.
Yeah,
plain and simple.
So for my number 5, I had Yelich. This is where I put your NL MVP.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he's only going to keep getting better. He's gotten better his whole career. At every single season, it seems he's improved. So I don't think he's going to stop doing that. I think the Brewers are the best team in the NL.
We've talked about it a bunch.
I think they're absolutely the best team in the NL.
Yep.
Most proven at this point, and also just most capable of going to the World Series and winning it and beating an AL team. I think they are the most built to do so.
Agreed. 100%.
So I think Christian Yelich is the piece that they needed to get over that hump clearly when he got there last season. So I think I have him at 5. And
Thank God he got out of Miami.
Absolutely. Everyone that was in Miami needed to get out. Which is actually, I mean, they credit to Miami for, not to go on a tangent, but credit to Miami for just giving all these great young players a chance somewhere
Absolutely.
else. I mean, they could have easily just buried them down there or tried to give them as much money as possible and force their hand a little bit. But
Hats off to Jeter.
they gave all these great players the chance to go be great. So, and then my number 4 was DeGrom. So, for the same reasons that I mentioned before, I personally think I put him up at 4 just because I think he did deserve that burn that he didn't really get last season just because he was on the Mets. And I think he was far and away the best pitcher last season. I think it would be hard to argue anyone else.
So my number 4 is Nolan Arenado, the man that just signed an extension, the cornerstone of that Rockies team. Saddened me because I wanted him on the Yanks. I wanted him at 3rd for the Yankees. I knew they were interested in him. But again, like you said, we get nitpicky here, 6 through 4. I could put DeGrom's, at 4 easily, and Arenado at 6. So,
everyone has an argument for it.
But, but he's a do it the right way kind of guy too. He's got a cannon. Some of the plays that he makes look so easy at 3rd. It's just it's unbelievable.
I mean, he's incredible. I have him at 3. Not to skip ahead, but that's kind of where we're at. But I have Nolan Arenado at 3, and he's unbelievable. I mean, you kind of said it all there, but to have an elite infielder that plays such elite defense and can hit so well, I mean, scouts always talk about those 5-tool guys, and there's a reason that you don't see a lot of them because when they are there and they can play at the highest level with all 5 of their tools,
it's awesome. I mean,
you can't have a greater impact on a team, and that's why you see some of these massive deals coming down, and that's why you can see some of those deals like Machado and Harper, who were kind of left out of the top 10 by ESPN and by us. That I mean, that's a lot of money committed to guys that you don't know if they have every single tool that these top 5, top 10 players have and how they impact teams.
I would say, Harper and Machado are bigger stars than Nolan Arenado, but I will take Arenado on my team over them every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think if Arenado came out, I think maybe not Harper. Harper has that thing about him where he's very electric.
He's a brand.
From Vegas. He's a brand in its own. And maybe Arenado doesn't have that personality to do that. A lot of guys don't. It's hard to be that charismatic. But if Arenado was in the same situation in the East Coast, in the AL, stuff like that, he would have the same star power as our top 2 guys, which I think we both agree are number 1, Trout, and number 2, Mookie. I mean,
that's easy.
I think I think when you look at the league right now, how it stands, it's those 2 guys and everyone else for the best players in the league.
So who did you have at 3?
Arenado.
Okay. And then I had Yelich.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had the NL MVP. You had him where 7, 6?
Who, Yelich?
Yeah. 5. All right. So we're again. You're splitting hairs here. If you said put him at 5 instead of 3, I'd agree with that. But that's why these lists are fun. And we agreed on the players for the most part, besides 1 or 2. But the places were a little bit different. But like you said, 1 and 2. I mean, if you put anybody else but Trout 1, Mookie 2, I don't want to even look at the rest of your list.
No, because it does. I think it's very clear that those 2 are 1, the most talented, and 2, the most poised to continue being as talented as they are. I mean, Mookie and Trout are both guys that are not only incredible players. I mean, for overall, as far as big time injuries or anything like that go, they're pretty clean. I mean, that's just, every player has their 10-day stint or what will now be a 15-day stint, stuff like that. But those are just it's almost maintenance when you talk about such a long season. But you talk about longevity and being healthy and prepared enough to be good for a really, really long time. It's Betts and Trout, and it's everyone else.
And they're both in the AL. It's unbelievable.
One of them winning championships and one of them on the beach.
Hey.
Not both not bad situations to be in.
$430 million. So those are our lists, guys. Again, baseball is almost here. We had a ton to talk about today. A lot more to talk about once that Trout news came through. So thank you, Mike. These big stories keep dropping on Tuesdays when we record. So it's been a blessing getting us through the off season.
Shout out Jeff Passan and I mean he's been the all-star of the off season.
Right?
He's gotten pretty much everything. So he's shout out him. I mean I guess he's talking about new faces in the league, new faces in the scout the sources game.
unlike the most hated man in Philadelphia, John Heyman.
John Heyman. It's a shame too because I like John Heyman.
So do I.
Philly's just missing out.
Yeah, they're
Philly's just salty over nothing. They got their
salt
guy
on the wound. Yeah,
they got their guy.
They wanted their guys, so we will see. We'll see how Harper performs this year, but that will be the closing for us, guys. Thank you for joining us on another awesome episode of Crowding the Plate. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at CTP Pod. You can also follow us at Brandon_sports, and you can follow myself at Kmess 22.
Yeah, guys, and you can catch me, Dubs, at Brandon Nick Dubs on Twitter. You can find us anywhere podcasts are found, Apple, iTunes or whatever, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn. I'm missing one, but you can find us everywhere.
Everywhere.
We're on YouTube. Make sure you follow our YouTube page, especially this week. Next week, we're going to have a lot of different video content coming out ahead of the season, some previews, stuff like that. A lot of cool stuff in the pipeline. So just make sure you're following, and you can find us everywhere, and you're prepared to be as knowledgeable as possible going into this season, following us. And
like we keep saying, if you've been enjoying any of the shows, now just wait till baseball season starts. And guess what? Baseball season is starting. And if you're listening to this or watching us, baseball season has already started. If you were up at 5:30 and you watched the game, tweet us. Let us know what you think. Ichiro sending you off the right way. But guys, baseball is here. And I'm so excited. So until the next time, continue crowding the plate. I am Kmess.
I'm Dubs, guys.
Yeah.